Evening. we we had the Who's on in Sydney today, um, out at the farm at Warwick Farm. It was Chipping Norton Stakes Day. Um, Brought back a few memories. This was when after I had a holiday at one stage from the track. Um, this was the first meeting that I came back to at Warwick Farm, and I remember walking in that day. It was 2001. Geez, time flies. So that's that's 13 years ago. Um, and of course, a funny thing, poor old Billy Perry, he used to look at the horses. I came in, can't come in through that entrance anymore, through a members entrance. Not many people attend the track these days, as you know, and came in from the Hume Highway side, and um, there was Billy Perry, who passed away, poor bugger, a couple of weeks ago. And there he was standing on the hill. I nicknamed that hill Billy Hill, next to a tree where he used to be able to get a good look at the horses coming from the stalls around into the parade ring. And I remember Billy. Funny thing, before I had a bit of a holiday, he was there, and when I got back after the holiday, he was there again. As I say, that was in 2001. Poor bugger died um, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this was the meeting, the Chipping Norton Stakes Day. And when we came back, of course, we also had the Liverpool City Cup and the Surround Stakes, the 3-year-old fillies, and the track played off the fence today, but we'll get to that in a minute. Just very quickly, during the week, we had a meeting. The meeting on Wednesday was at Canterbury. The track was given out a slow 7. The rail was 3 metres out at Canterbury on Wednesday. We did have a very heavy, the tail of the storm came through and hit Canterbury before race 7, which most certainly made the track heavy, and it didn't stop the leader and the very well-backed Casino Swoop, ridden by the pumper, velodroming coming across, finding the fence the first turn, maintaining a good break on the field all of the way after they hit that turn out of the back straight to the winning post to win by 3.5 lengths. And they never forgot to back Casino Swoop, because it was back from $6.50, which you wouldn't see. I can't work out how the best luck was only $4.80. There was a mile of $5 on the fence. I even saw there was $6.50 and $5.50 given in the outer ring. Plenty of $5 on the fence. No, there was actually $6, believe it or not, given on the fence. There was $6 given on the fence, but the best fluck, if you got flucked again, $4.80, and it bolted in. But the way the track was playing, and that it made it a lot easier for it. And at that meeting on Wednesday, well, I think there was only one winner that didn't come. That at one stage wasn't on the fence, and that was in race 4, where the winner, the lucky winner, I suppose, Talk Flight, it sat outside. Oh well, it was. It's got by the time they'd got to the turn, it was outside the leader, Trumped, trained by I Own the Lead, Gay. Finish up running third, Trumped, and the unlucky runner in that race, who settled down in last position, Rock Sturdy, ran up the back of them right towards the finish. If there would have been a gap in between the runners near the line, or with the last few hops to go, it was coming that quick, it would have gone through and won. But as I say, Talk of Flight, it was the only runner not to be on the at some stage on the rails. There were leaders that won, others all the other of the other 6 races, leaders won and others were on the fence. So that told you that the we have seen it a lot worse by the same token, but it most certainly told you the fence was the place to be. Then we had a meeting on Thursday at the provincials at Wyong, and it was just the opposite of Wyong. The track was given out a slow 6, upgraded to a dead 5. The rail was in the normal position. There was a steady south-westerly sort of thing blowing, or a little light southerly. Didn't have any effect, but the fence at Wyong on Thursday was it was inferior to runners that were able to get wide on the turn and come down the middle of the track. And interestingly, at Wyong, there were no, even though there were runners that were up near the lead and off the fence, leaders that were up, they were off the fence before the turn, they still weren't able to hang on. There were no leaders that won. The closest that one got might have been in race 4, where the stable Assure, ridden by Jay McDonald, and it was run down by its stablemate Cowgirl Claire, who at one stage was off the fence but angled clear before the turn, was able to get Assure near the line. That was the closest I think a leader got all day. It was best to be off the pace and off the fence at Wyong on Thursday, and well, there were a couple of unfortunately at Wyong, which is a very, very hard place to win swinging the satchel. There were only 3 of us there on Thursday. A couple of the other captains were having a little holiday in Acapulco, and the last race came along, and gee whiz, looking at the results, everything, all the well-fancied runners that were in the market, favourites and second favourites, they all greeted the judge. So you would have thought coming to the last race, there would have been a few punters about, but there were, like it was at the beginning of the day, hardly any punters there at all. We had, of course, the professionals, runners at the track with them armed with their telephones, and it was a funny situation. We've seen it happen before, where cars have, especially after the last race and before the first race, when gear is being set up and so forth, of course, and picked up, you see cars or trucks go through the betting ring. But there we were 10 minutes before the last race at Wyong on Thursday, and we had a Betfair Crusher on the side. We had 2 bookies on the rails and myself on the outside ring, and we had the 3 or 4 professionals runners sitting not far or behind my stand, more or less. And lo and behold, a car from my right appeared from nowhere, and he just strolled straight through the betting ring. He just went through doing 5 mile an hour. He didn't have to put his brakes on, just rolled through. Well, everyone sort of just went, oh well, there's a car going through the ring. And guess how many punters had to move out of the way to let him through? Well, my wife took a picture. There was not one punter in the ring, not one. You think there would have been a couple of punters standing, but there wasn't one person in the ring. And of course, one of the pros runners, he came up with a good one-liner, and it did make all of us put a bit of or giggle a bit, whatever you want to say. He said, well, he said, that might be the saviour of the Captain Cookies. It's called drive-through betting. Well, it was funny at the time. and when the car did go through, as I say, we realised we were just standing there staring in space, and we're all more or less saying to each other, what are we doing here? That was the meeting at Weil. Now, of course, we came to Warwick Farm today, where the track was started off at a slow 7, and it was upgraded to a dead 5 after race 5, and the rail was in the normal position, and it was quite obvious. Well, that there were no leaders that won for a start, and the place to be was just off the pace, getting to the middle of the track after straightening, or as you were turning for home. That was the preferred place to be, and not only the preferred place to be, but the place to be if you it was giving the horses the best chance to win from that position. So when you watch the replays, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Talking about replays, of course, I was talking to someone during the week when we get to these meetings, when we have bits of spells where there's a lapse in betting, there's not much action being taking place, and that made me think of when the Legal Eagles were in business, of course, and one of the reasons which I found out that why they were in business, of course, and not only in business but so hard to beat. All the Captain Cookies at the time was saying, gee whiz, we can't beat these blokes. We all know who they were, a few solicitors and so forth, and a couple of other good boys, and one of them, of course, was Don Scott, and he approached the Australian Jockey Club at the time, who were controlling racing, and asked them, could he put, would it be possible if he could tape or film the races? And they said, oh, well, we can't, it's not, how are you going to do it? Well, of course, at Warwick in the stand, he had the chap used to go, oh, I didn't even know he was there, I never used to get up there. Not that I hadn't been up there, but never saw him. You were working, and he just used to run out the front and watch the races. Of course, he had a tripod set up top of the stand at Warwick and at Canterbury, Rose Hill and Warwick Farm, and used to film. I don't know about the provincials. Everyone used to get the photos from the provincials, which they don't do anymore. But of course, we've all got access to all the replays now, of course, and it's in your lounge room. But at the time, of course, everybody, the public, other punters and everybody involved only had one go at watching the race, and that was if you got out there before they jumped, which 90% of the bookies didn't do, and a lot of the punters went out and watched the race with your binoculars and had one go at watching it and trying to remember what happened. It's great to have a good memory and be able to. It did sort out the chaff from the wheat back in those days. But of course, they had Don Scott and his other members of that Legal Eagle team. They, for a good many years, they had access to, of course, watching the race at all the city tracks over and over as many times as they want. And of course, the stewards were the only ones who had the films of and had better angle shots, of course, but it was still a huge advantage. But the Stipes, of course, aren't punters; they're not allowed to bet. And stewards' reports in those days were nowhere as comprehensive as they are today. And unless there was a protest, I doubt whether the stewards even watched the race again. So they had it one out, watching the race, as I say, as many times as you wanted, picking up runs. Of course, after a while, after a certain time, we did get they were starting to show the replays of the Sunday, but not all of the races, and not the complete race. A lot of times just from the turn on, but they had access to watching the entire race, as I say, as many times as they wanted, and which was a huge advantage. And talking about, like, here we are, 2014. You think, in Sydney, it's not the same in the other states, and it's not the same in any other part of the world where horse racing is. At Warwick Farm, you get the same. Canterbury, they don't even have the slow motion replay after it must be a different mob doing it or whatever. But at Warwick Farm, and I think it's the same at Randwick, they might be the same crew at Randwick and Warwick Farm, and possibly at Rose Hill. When they show the slow motion replay, the horses going across the line, if there happen to be some horses that are well back in the finish, they don't even bother showing you them getting to the line, just holding the tape on until you actually see those horses going past. They most probably think that's got nothing to do with they're that far back. Oh, we don't. The punters don't. Well, of course, the general public and punters, they wouldn't care. They don't know what time of day it is, do they? But the people who are doing the tapes, and we want to see the horses, that are beat back, finish well back in the field, whether the jockey has completely eased them down, or what the story is, and they don't even bother showing them in Sydney. It's a complete and utter myth. Anyway, this meeting here today kicked off with the 2400 metre race. All a team of very one-paced pluggers, and it was won by Lucky Liaison, the runner that won in the bog in that heavy downpour last start at Warwick Farm. It got a charm run sitting in 4th position, ridden by Father Schofield, who got a double up today. And after they turned for home, after having a charm run, he was able to get a break on the field, and he held the favourite very easily down to the line, who came from last, Penometer, where it was always going to be. Made a run coming down the side, Penometer, and it lost a plate in the run. Whether losing a plate in the run, it all depends how you lose it. It might be twisted on your foot for a while. You might put in a few wrong strides, or it might just fly off. Could have had a slight effect, I suppose. Well, it does have an effect, but they do sometimes win when they do lose their plates. But it just plugged down the outside. The margin was 2.5 lengths. Run the race again, you'd get a different result. The betting would be around. I suppose the winner might be a bit shorter, but there wouldn't be much difference. In this race, they said there was only 102.4 on the screen, and there was a good 4 less in the marketplace, only about 98%. In the second race, well, again, later on the day, well, it wasn't any good for a start, but it wasn't as bad as this race. This race here, they said there was only 98.6 on the screen for the robots. In the marketplace, there was a good 4 less, only about 94.5. And well, the winner, for instance, I was $15 when I had a bad result on this race. I lost on the first race as well. But I was $15 when they jumped, and I laid it for plenty of money at $11. Alpha Miss, and I was $15 when they jumped. It was a very lucky win, but it won. Where else is there a difference? Wajinda, or the Gay's horse, there was $6 given about it, not $5.50, and there's a little bit of percentage here and there. There was about 4 less in the marketplace. The winner here sat behind the lead. It led, I own the lead, Wajinda, after blundering a little bit at the start and pulled up with abrasions and a bit of a puncture wound. It led, hung out under pressure in the straight, got off the fence before the turn. On its outside was the favourite Brazen Bow, who was very disappointing. It was trotting outside the leader coming to the turn. There was no betting. The judge even reached for its number to put it in the frame. The winner, Alpha Miss, it was directly behind the leader, Alpha Miss was directly behind Wajinder on the fence. When they turned for home, there was only one place for it to go. He couldn't get to the outside because other runners had moved up. He had to go inside Wajinder where there was a mile of room. He got past it very quickly and got a little bit of a break while all this was happening. Unfortunately, it's easy now, but Clever Karen pulled the wrong rein on Memorial, who I thought should have won easily. It missed the kick slightly and then copped a Pratt and went back to clear last, and then got going again, got past a couple of the bottom pair, Obstinate Lass and also number 7, Wigan Out, got past them before the turn, but he was looking at the winner in front of him, few lengths away from it. If he would have started, obviously, maybe saying to himself, the fence is not the place to be, but if he would have stayed there and tailed the winner through instead of easing away from the fence, looking to get to the outside, he would have won for sure, because he finished up when a run didn't appear for him out wide when other runners had swooped up and moved up. He had to switch back to the inside anyway, and he took the path of the eventual winner. But of course, the winner, Alpha Miss, had stolen a march on him, and it only went down by 0.3 of a length. It should have won without a shadow of doubt, Memorial, in race 2. Now, race 3, they said there was 106.9 on the screen, and there was a good 7 less in the marketplace, only about the even 100. And the biggest difference you can see straight away is whoever backed number 5, Territory, the winner, who would have been extremely unlucky not to have won. It did win, of course. They said the best fluck was $7, 6-1. Whoever backed the best flucked got flucked, because I gave, well, I did see $8.50 on the fence, but the fluck boards only never went past 7. $10 given in the outside ring. Right towards the end of betting, a bookie on the rails back to back with me to win $4,000 at the $8.50. It still did start $8 on my board, and it was returned $7. And as I say, would have been extremely unlucky to have been beaten. It settled down in 3rd last position. That's a good idea. It went straight to the lead, ridden by the pumper. He was a bit off the fence coming to the turn, but he finished close to the fence by the time he got down to the winning post, which wasn't the place to be. It ran 3rd, only got beat 1.1 lengths. But as I say, the winner, when they straightened, he couldn't get to the outside looking for room because a horse was on his outside. So he was ridden by Nippy Nash. He was waiting for the split to appear, and it didn't appear, and he tried to shoulder his way clear. Well, he tried to shoulder his way clear, a good 3 or 4 times. If he would have got clear running, he'd finish up winning by 1 length as it was. But if he would have got clear when he had clear running from the top of the straight, instead of being held up, there's a good chance the margin here might have been at least another couple of lengths, 3 lengths. So it won, and it would have been very unlucky not to have won. The betting in this race, That's a Good Idea, who started second favourite at $3.50. It opened up 9-4. Second pick 9-4 bar, and it got out to plenty of $3.50, if not 60. And at one stage, well, I got a bucketful out of it at $3.20 at one stage, and I was $3.50 when they jumped. And the reason being, Barbed, the bottom one here, ridden by Clever Karen, who had every possible chance. We put it up the 7-4 favourite, $2.80. 7-4 the field, and it got out to plenty of 3.20, plenty of $3.30, and I think in the outside ring you might have even got better. At the finish, when after it was back good idea, then they started to back barbed. There was a snowball effect here because the 3.30, 3.20, 3.10, and the $3, 2.90, 2.80, 2.70, 2.60, 2.50, and at the finish, they how muched me at the $2.40. Well, I said, well, how much do you want on it? They said, well, I want this much on it, and I said, yes, that's all right. Turned out I had a good little book on this race. Right towards the finish, as I say, someone backed the winner to win $4,000 with me at $8.50. Best luck, only $7. So there's the advantage of being on course, and there was $10 given about it. I saw it with my own 2K wise. So fancy not coming to the course. You've got to be bananas, you top fluck people. You can beat the top fluck. A man with a white cane can beat the top fluck. Anyway, it was if you caught them right in that race, it was workable, even though we only gave about 100. There was a bit of value there, as I say, if you caught them right. And the winner would have been unlucky not to have won. Race number 4, they said there was 105.6 on the screen, about 4 or 5 less in the marketplace, only about 101. And who won this race? Catkins. Now, they said the best fluck was $1.90. Well, there was evening money, evens on the field. Yours for mine, mine for yours. On the fence, and like a googie egg, and a hard-boiled one at that, I gave it in the outside ring. At the finish, if you had up $1.70, they said you want 100 million to a 700 million on. Now, they don't quite want that much at this stage. At this stage, I don't want quite that much. But they said, whatever you want. And after they had gone, say, 2 furlongs in this race, the cheeky judge, he had Mother Magoo in his hand. He picked up Mother Magoo in his Warwick farm, and he said, I can't slide it in here now, but gee whiz, this looks like it's going to win. And that was because it was hunting through on the inside anyway, any day will do. Any day will do from barrier 3, but off the fence and up on its outside was the 100 to 1 chance, She's a Girl. And just right behind the pair, absolutely puffing away on his pipe, was Horseman Bowman. And there was a good 2 or 3 lengths to the other runners. And they weren't going that hard. And the other runners that were behind Catkins, they weren't really coming. And when they came to the turn, well, he just went 3 wide up outside the 100 to 1 chance, which was dropping off. Anyway will do. Any day will do was still hanging in there. But when they flattened out, he said, come on, we're going, Catkins. And she took off and she won by 2 lengths. It came from 3rd last, like it always does, making up a lot of ground, Shiny Rose, through the high diddle-diddle. And it came from back in the field as well, Dear Demi, resuming from a spell today, making up good ground. But the way, as I say, the race was run, and looking at it, I must say that after they'd gone 3 furlongs, I think you were, if you'd laid the odds on, you were very happy with yourself. Race 5, here we saw the turnaround of Bobbin with Father Schofield up, and in this race they said there was 106.1 in the marketplace, only about Mother Magoo less, about 2 less, about 104, $1.85 when they jumped the favourite. It's easy now. I was going to say he took off a little bit early, but no, the winner had the wood on him, beat him by a length. We put it up the $1.70 favourite. We'll have you 11 to 8, and it's a done deal. Got out to $1.80, $1.85, back into $1.80, but it was $1.85 again when they jumped. the winner. There was $5.50 given on the fence about the winner and in the outside ring. We put it up to 7-2 second pick, 7-2 bar at $4.60, 40. Got out to $5.50, started $4.80, and it went straight to the lead. I own the lead, Order the Sun. It was back from $31 into $20, 19 to 1 when they jumped, it led. On its outside was Glen Can of Gold. Oh, who trains it? The other I Own the Lead as well. Both of them led. One outside the other. I Own the Lead, and then we had tucked in behind them. We had Monton on its outside, Moriarty. And there was a bit of a movement before the turn where Moriarty got in between the leaders. It's a Done Deal, who was sitting back. At one stage, the winner, Bobbin, was inside it, but when they were coming down the side, Bobbin was able to get onto It's Done Deal's back. It's a Done Deal moved up very easily coming to the turn, got up to the leaders, got past them. Bobbin tailed him all the way, ridden by Father Schofield, outsprinted him in the straight and beat him by 1 length. It came from a clear last, like it did when it resumed, when it won second up last start at Warwick. Hawkesbury. It won that day, of course, second up, won easily. Today, again, it ran a very good race, coming from a clear last, down the outside, the right part of the track, and the way and the right position to be in, making ground. It was only beaten 2 lengths, so its run was also good. Race 6, they said there was 106 on the screen. Gee whiz, the boys did a good job here, because I only saw about 1 less, maybe about 105, so it was nearly spot on. And here, this was a huge difference to me. Terra Vista, it pulled up with a poor recovery rate after winning. It got into the perfect position, more or less. It sat in the 1-1, you can more or less say. It went straight to the lead. How Much Do You Love Me? One of the pros took the $26 towards the end of betting. Sitting on its outside was El Rocker, the second favourite, and it lost a plate before they went onto the track, and had to be reshod when they got to the barrier. Those little quirky things, isn't it funny sometimes how if they're shod properly, I suppose it's not the same as the put on as well, or the blacksmith who puts his plate on for him. You never know. The blacksmith, not that he's not a pro, the fella at the farrier at the barrier, he's a pro for sure. But as you read on my website, the shoeing of horses is a very, very, very important thing when it comes to horses performing well. If you're not shod right, it makes it doesn't enhance your chances. But anyway, El Rocker sat outside the leader. How Much Do You Love Me? Directly behind it, tailing it all the way, was Terra Vista, a little bit wide, but half carding, but in the perfect part of the track. Inside it was My Destiny from Barrier 2, and when they swung for home, El Rocker was able to get past. They hadn't gone that hard, I suppose. At once, just before the turn, at one stage, it tried to get clear. How Much Do You Love Me? It did. It got a couple of lengths in front, well off the fence. But as I say, by the time they got to the turn, El Rocker had rounded it up. But in its sights all the way was the winner, Terra Vista, and out-sprinted him just a little bit too well. The second horse was doing best on the line. The margin was only 0.2 of a length. It came from well back in the field, 9th Legion, the right section of the track, to make up plenty of ground, as did Pinwheel, who ran another very honest race. White Sage, she's got well back in the field. The jockey saying the way the race was run, not a lot of pace. I think that's what he meant, that it didn't suit Little White Sage. They did say today they were going to ride it with cover. That was a big mistake. It could have been from the barrier that it had. It had the perfect barrier. There were 12 runners. I would have, unless they thought it wasn't ready to win, maybe that might be the case. But uh, um, where it was drawn was the perfect position to be up behind the leaders, but that wasn't the case to be. It settled well back, but they know what they're doing, and as I said the other day, you don't. Why would you even have to tell anybody? Race, as long as you're trying. Race 7, and this was a big result for the captains. The captains filled the satchel here. They said there was 107 on the screen, and I must admit, only a couple. Oh my God. Whoo-wee. Only a couple less. I'll pass out here after a few more of these. Only a couple less in the marketplace, about 105. Now, this was the betting. Right toward, well, it's funny how the betting went here, because Guelph, we put it up the $3 second pick, 2-to-1 bar. It got out to, you wouldn't see it, mile of 350, but 370 in the outside ring and 360 on the fence. It did start $2.80 very hard to get. The opening favourite was Sweet Idea. We put it up 6-4, 250. 6-4 the field. Now, when it got out to $2.90, there was an avalanche for it, and it was into $2.70, hard to get at one stage. And then, as I say, the money came for Guelph, and it got back out to $3.30, Sweet Idea, and you couldn't give it away at the finish. And I must admit, I handled it bad because I didn't glide at the 290 the tour. I tried to catch it, and when I reached for it, they said, no, you can have Sweet Idea. We know it can't win now. Guelph's the one. Guelph's the one. Anyway, it did lose a plate in the run, Sweet Idea, and pulled up with a laceration to one of its hocks. And then we had another well-back runner in the race that just failed to get the money, and that was Real Surreal. Opened up $9, got out to 11 on the fence, back into $7 towards the end of betting. And there was a little bit of money at one stage for Arabian Gold. And there was a bit of money for Gypsy Diamond at $17 into 14. The winner was 20 out to 26 thump, and perfectly ridden by the pumper. It went to the lead, Champagne Cat. On its outside was Sweet Idea, which it was always going to be up near the lead. Now, it half-carted outside the pair from barrier 5, Thump. What a ride it was. Real Surreal, who had barrier 9, which was drawn outside Thump, it was inside it, coming down the side. And I thought Jay McDonald made a bit of an error in coming down the side and before the turn. He shouldn't have stayed where he was. If he would have eased a little bit wider and got straight onto the back of the winner Thump, when they swung for home, he would have got to Thump's. Now, it's easy for me to say, those riders in the stand, Jay McDonald, if he's watching, he might say, you don't know what you're talking about, son. I tell you now, you're most probably 1,000,000% right. But it's just what I saw with my eyes. And I thought, Jay McDonald, if you would have, before the turn, got on Jimmy's back, your mate from New Zealand, and then therefore, coming to the turn, you would have got to his outside, I think you would have beat him. But as you know what happened, when they turned for home, you went in between him and Sweet Idea. So you were on his inside, which made it a little bit difficult. And as they flattened out, Jimmy most probably said to himself, well, I've got you where I want you. And if anything's coming down the outside, I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult for them, because he kept on getting a little bit wider on the track. And the great rider he is, he held Real Surreal off to beat it by 0.3 of the length. Now, it came from well back in the field and right along the 18 pence and that was the runner resuming, the New Zealand performer, uh, Lucia Valentina, uh, and it made up a lot of ground. It went from $21 out to $51, resuming from, oh, well, it had a start in New Zealand. It fell 2 starts ago, had a start in New Zealand, and it made up a lot of ground along the, and finished close to the fence. Was only beaten 1.3 lengths, so its run was most probably good. The way the race was run, again emphasising how the track was playing, the winner and the second horse, or the winner especially, got into the absolute perfect position. And talk about perfect positions, that was exactly the case in the last race. In that race, did I say, yes, there was only 105 in the marketplace. Now, in this last race, they said there was 105.3 on the screen for the robots, 100, a neat 100 in the marketplace. And we played Swire with the punters, less the Toyota Lexus, which are only about, 2%, 1.5%, 2%. So we only gave that 98. Anyway, this race was no good for the captains. All of the cream went off the cake because the winner and the second horse were more or less the only 2 runners that they backed. And when they got down to the line, there was only 0.1 of a length between them. And why this race was no good, would the owners of our Desert Warrior please step forward? And there was no stepping forward from anybody. There was a lot of stepping back, because our Desert Warrior, we put it up the 4-to-1, $5, third pick. Well, we say 4-to-1 bar the pair, and it got out to $11 at the finish of betting, and you couldn't give it away. It went from $5 to $11. It led. They said, we're going to show you today I own the lead. We're going to take it to the lead. It was ridden by the pumper Cassidy. Didn't have to set a real fast pace. He always was well, when they got him coming down the side, he was always well off the fence. He knew it was no good on the inside. Oh, he was a Jerry. And looking at him all the way was Transonic, who was $14 out to $19. And looking at it, and sort of, it was like when you see those birds flying in that lovely angle, when you see the birds were making that lovely V, and looking at Transonic was the Avery, entirely platinum, and looking at it in that lovely bird flying pattern was the second pick, Canny Ballad, ridden by Bold Blake Shin. And when they turned for home, well, of course, now behind those, you had Charing Cross, a stablemate of our Desert Warrior, who drew barrier 1. It wasn't close to the fence, but was well off, but it was inside Canny Ballad. And the other 5 runners were sort of back, and they were all big odds, and they were going nowhere. The closest runner to the fence and stayed close to it on the turn and down the side, actually hit the rail at one stage, was Need the Doe. So you could, when you do your form, you put down for Need the Doe that it was in the worst section of the ground. But when they turned for home, Jay McDonald on entirely platinum. That's something I haven't got, any platinum. He was moving up to Transonic, who was who had got past our Desert Warrior. Our Desert Warrior was gone on the turn, and he just ambled up, and coming off his back was a second pick. And when they flattened out, both riders with their different styles, Jay McDonald a little bit higher in the saddle than Bold Blake Shin, and used his legs to give them a bit of a punch along, and his whip action is he gives them a nice clout right towards the back of their rump, and kicks forward in that stride. Bowl Blake Shin uses a bit more of his legs, ham and eggs, and a lower whip action. And as I say, when they got down to the line, there was only 0.1 of a length in it, and the bookies felt doggone sick because, now you wouldn't see it, the top fluck about this Avery, entirely platinum, was $2.50. In the marketplace, there was $2.80 given on the outside ring and $2.70, and on the fence there was plenty of $2.60, but the top fluck was only $2.50, but at the finish of betting, it was $2.30, hard to get. And the second pick, Canny Ballard, we put it up, the 11 to 4 second pick, 11 to 4 bar it, $3.70 or 80, and it got out to $4, back into $3.80, back out to $4, back into $3.80, started $3.80, hard to get. And as I say, the one that we put up, bar the pair, Desert Warrior, went from $5 out to 11. You couldn't give it away. That was, and it came from third last, making up ground in the right part of the track to High Tech, and was only beaten 2.1 lengths and made up a good bit of ground, as did the fourth horse, Lucky, who ran a very good race because when the gates opened, it went up in the air and lost a good bit of ground and settled down a clear last. So the winner and the second horse got charm runs, whereas the runners that ran second, third and fourth, they didn't have any favours in the run really and made up plenty of ground. So I suppose the winner and the second horse's runs weren't as good as they looked. So that was about the meeting. If you were wire netting, I hope you finished on the right side of the ledger. Good evening.